Hi YouTube, it's Alex or Gothic Fitness on Instagram. So I'm gonna just try to do a short video today. We'll see how it goes. I have been asked by a couple people on my Instagram account at Gothic Fitness if I could do a video over maintaining your exercise and eating routine while experiencing depression. So I figured since I've been having some struggles with that recently that I would talk on that a little bit, especially since I've been having a lot of questions about it. I usually, when I do a YouTube video, I have like a little card that I put down here that I reference while I'm talking. But this time I'm going to just try to kind of talk about my experiences and see how that goes, just because this is a little bit more of a personal subject. So yeah, let's do it. I was diagnosed with depression and generalized anxiety disorder when I was in, I think, 8th grade. In middle school, my childhood dog passed away when I was in 6th grade, and that kind of was the first thing that like ever triggered actual depression for me, and I went into a depressive episode at that point and stayed in it for a very long time through middle school. I ended up participating in self-harm. Eventually I told my school counselor, went to a psychiatrist, got diagnosed officially, and was put on medication. I ended up, the medication that I was on made me very tired, so I ended up stopping taking the medication when I went to college, because I actually almost failed a math class that I was in my senior year of high school because I kept falling asleep during class because of the medication I was on. So I went off my medicine for college, so I felt like I could focus more. At the time, I didn't realize that there are other medications you could try, and that there wasn't just like one medication for you know, being depressed. And I probably should have went back to my psychiatrist and told them my symptoms and got prescribed something else, but I didn't at the time. So I went a few years without taking medication and just seeing a therapist, and then that leads us kind of to now. So what I'm going to kind of talk about is what I do currently to help myself get through my normal routine of living a healthy, fit lifestyle. So first of all, I went back to my psychiatrist, or I actually went to my primary care physician. I got a new primary care physician who I really like. Finding a doctor who understands your fitness and health goals and is willing to work with you on those goals is very important. So I recommend, if you do not like your primary care physician that you have now, to search for another one. And so after seeing my doctor, we talked about it, and she prescribed me 2 different medications. One is called, I'm not gonna remember the name of it. It's basically a off-brand, citalopram, that's what it is. It's like a off-brand form of Celexa. It's like in the same family as Celexa, but it's a little bit different. Celexa I used to take, and it always made me fall asleep, and then my doctor was like, well, why don't you just take it at nighttime? And I was like, didn't think about that. So now I'm taking citalopram at nighttime, 40 milligrams before I go to bed every evening, and then I also have something called hydroxyzine, which is a medication that I can take as needed for anxiety. So those are the 2 medications I'm on. After the past couple weeks, I'm thinking about maybe adding something to my medicines, but I have to go back to my doctor and talk to her first before I make any changes. So we'll see about that. So that's the first thing is, if you're diagnosed with an actual medical condition like depression or anxiety, like, it is a real disease. It's a real problem with your brain, and taking medications that can balance that brain chemistry can do a lot to help you. So that's the first thing I would recommend, would be to see a doctor and see if medication is something that could help you out. The next thing that I super recommend is going to therapy. I believe very strongly that every single person, no matter what, should go to therapy. Everyone has had shit happen to them, and that has affected them in their life that they haven't processed in the best way they probably could process it. So I think that therapy is very very good for everyone. It helps you process traumatic events that have happened to you, and also just like work through different experiences and make yourself a better person. One of the things that I do with my therapist is I go in and I say like, look, this is something that I've noticed about myself that I really want to change or I really want to improve, and so we will like focus on that thing. So like one thing for me is social media, you know, obviously it plays a big part of my life, with like my dog rescue and my fitness page and being a tattoo artist. And so when somebody comments something mean on any of my Instagram posts, like it really affects my self-esteem. So that's something that I told her, like, hey, like I really want to work on this. I want to improve my self-esteem and my self-worth and put it in other things instead of just my social media following. So that's something that me and her have been working on together. I know that therapy is very expensive. Believe me, I know that. I was paying out of pocket at my last therapist for a while, because I had seen her for 3 years and I didn't want to stop seeing her, but she didn't take my insurance any longer. So I totally understand, but if it is something that you can afford, I would highly recommend looking into it. I know sometimes your church can provide like one free therapy session a month, or you can sign up to be on a list to see a church therapist, or there are government mandated programs in some cities where you can go in and you can see a therapist, but a lot of the times it's just that you have to get on a waiting list. So if you can do any of those things, again, I highly recommend it, because seeing a therapist and having somebody to process those thoughts, emotions, feelings, trauma with is so helpful. So that's something also that I do weekly. In addition to that, I personally have a service dog. His name is Bowie. I have a couple posts in him at the beginning if you like scroll back pretty far in my Instagram account. And maybe I'll do a video with him one day and kind of show you guys what he does. But his job, he is more for my anxiety disorder than my depression, but basically he can tell when I'm having a panic attack before I'm having a panic attack and can alert me and tell me to take my medicine. So then I take my hydroxyzine before my panic attacks turn into like a full-blown panic attack where I can't like recover from, or I have to like just kind of ride it out. If I can know that I'm having a panic attack earlier, then usually I can stop it before it gets kind of out of control. So I hadn't been using him very recently, because up until the past 2 weeks I've actually been doing really well, and I haven't needed to take him out with me as much as I used to, and then the past 2 weeks, which we're going to talk about now, have gotten really bad. So basically I went through like a really bad like depressive episode that lasted about 4 or 5 days. Me and my therapist like went through it, and we kind of triggered it, or figured out that like it was triggered by the fact that I didn't eat enough on Saturday, which seems silly, but taking care, like your body needs food, and your body needs good food that's going to nourish your body and it nourish your mind. And so I didn't eat enough food on Saturday, and it just kind of put me into this like funk, and then I ended up getting depressed, and it just kind of like snowballed, and like every single little thing that was happening to me was just making me feel crazy, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse until it kind of came to a head on, I believe, actually I don't even remember what day it was. It was like maybe Saturday night or Sunday night or something, and I was just like so depressed that I was like, man, I don't see myself getting out of this, you know. And so from there, I went to my therapist, talked to her about it, and we were able to kind of trace it back to like the different events that happened, and why I was not able to stop them before they got super bad. Again, I'm going to be talking with my primary care physician, because this could be something where it's like an imbalance in my medicine, because obviously just not eating enough food one day shouldn't be something that triggers an entire depressive episode that lasts 5 days. But eating food that is healthy for you and eating it at the right times and not depriving yourself of the nutrients that your body and your mind needs can help fight off depression as well. Also, I'm sure all of you have been told this, but exercise is very good for fighting depression. the biggest thing that exercise does is it releases endorphins in your brain that and helps release the chemicals that your brain normally doesn't produce on its own, or produces them at a deficiency if you have depression. So the biggest thing, obviously, like the 5 days that I was super depressed, I did not shower those entire 5 days. I did manage to get up and go to the gym, but it was much more difficult than it usually is, because usually I like enjoy going to the gym and I look forward to it, and this was not something I looked forward to. It was something I had to force myself to do. So basically what I like to do to keep myself motivated during those bouts of depression is I'll like leave myself notes either on like my mirror with like a sticky note, or I have like a dry erase marker that I write on my mirror, or I will like put notes in my phone and be like, you know, you will feel so much better if you go to the gym, or like just do it, or, you know, like, I'm proud of you, you can do this. And just like putting little things like that to like motivate yourself in advance, like doing that like the night before, so that in the morning when you wake up, you feel more motivated by yourself. The other thing is to have like an accountability partner. Like my best friend Danny and I have been going to the gym together like the past 2 weeks. You've probably seen pictures of her on my Instagram. But having somebody that like is able to like hold you accountable and like is expecting you to get up and go to the gym with them really helps, because then you're flaking on your friend and yourself. So it's just stacking that responsibility kind of helps you like follow through with it. And then also something that helps me a lot too is I just decide the night before. So I will like literally like the night before, I'll be usually feeling a little bit better, and I'll be like, okay, in the morning when you wake up, you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel depressed, you're not going to want to go to the gym, but like you are going to go. And I'll like lay out my gym clothes the night before, I'll put my shoes next to my bed, and so like the first thing I see when I wake up is like my stuff like ready to go, and I'm like, okay, like here we go. The biggest thing I've been struggling with right now is actually getting up on time, because when you have depression, it's very easy to just continue to snooze your alarm, and just because your brain is kind of in that fog and you just kind of would rather just sleep than be awake and be conscious of your depression. So I've been putting my phone on the opposite side of the room, so I actually have to physically get up and walk across the room in order to turn the alarm off. And then the other thing that I do is like motivate myself with rewards. So I'll be like, you know, I really, really don't want to work out today, and I know I don't want to work out today, but since you're like, for some reason, like when I'm on my period or when I'm depressed, I like crave chocolate. Like I don't know what it is about like those two things, but like when I'm like super, super depressed, like all I want to do is lay on my couch and eat like just M&Ms for days. So sometimes, you know, in order to get myself up to go to the gym to burn 500 calories, I'll tell myself, okay, when you get home, if you go to the gym, you can have that handful of M&Ms that you want. So that's something that like will reward you if you do go to the gym. So those are like kind of like the things that I generally do. I'm not perfect at that. This is still something that I'm working through and working towards, and I would love to hear your guys' suggestions in the comments of like what you guys do to mitigate your depression. But I think that the biggest thing that's difficult is like when everything kind of like all hits at once, because I like had that depressive episode, and then I got into a pretty serious car wreck over the last weekend, where because I was depressed, I fell asleep while I was driving and ended up rear-ending the car in front of me, and I think my car is totaled, so that's super fun. And then I just found out last night that my grandfather passed away. So yeah, it's just kind of like a when it rains it pours situation, and when you're already struggling with depression and having like that bout of depression in that moment that everything else is going wrong, it's very, very difficult to hold your head above water. The biggest advice, this isn't necessarily about fitness, but just about having depression in general, that I would recommend is to have somebody that you know is like your safe person, somebody that you can go to like no matter what, and you can like let them know like, hey, like I'm not safe right now, or I really need somebody, and you know that they will be there for you. The other night I was able to text my friend Danny, and she literally like texted me every single hour to like check on me, and like was like, make sure you take your medicine, was like asking me to send her pictures of like my food and the Christmas presents I was wrapping and things like that, to kind of keep my mind off of you know, how horrible I felt. And it was probably like you know, the most helpful thing anybody could have done for me, like in that moment. So I really think that if you have somebody, and especially like having a system of people, like I have my friend Danny, I have my friend Heather, I have my friend Amy, I have my mom, my husband, my friend Nate, and so I have all these people that I can like fall back on even if one doesn't answer the phone because they're already asleep or something. So developing that support system of people that are going to understand your mental illness and be able to help you and take care of you when you really need it is super, super important and can be life-saving. So that's basically been my 2 weeks. So again, if you have any suggestions for me or for our other my other followers, put them in the comments of how you mitigate depression and keep up with your fitness lifestyle. If you want more videos on this kind of mental illness content, please let me know in the comments as well. And I think that's all I've got for you today. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I will be posting this video in a few days, and then I'm also going to be doing a video on my supplements before I leave for LA, and then I'll probably do a little bit of a video about my trip to LA as well. So I think that's pretty much it. Remember to live healthy, die happy, and leave a pretty corpse. Thanks guys, see you next time.